right?
Okay, so just to give a little context, we just recorded an hour-long video with some really great questions explaining about Merkaba technology, explaining about the tarot deck, about working with me, about how this helps people and helps the world, and it was really fun. But we didn't get on video the first 2 questions, but we did get it transcribed. Also, it's in my head, but it was really good. So we're just gonna add in here 5 minutes of answering the questions. So would you like to ask the question again?
All right. What is the problem you are solving? And then the question related to is just tell us about a person who has this problem and what's the impact in their life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I'm just looking up what I answered before because it was so spontaneous and good, but I'll just answer it again. So, I started with an example is what I did. And I said, this morning I went to yoga class, and in the yoga class, it was a special class because last night was a full moon eclipse in Taurus, right? And it's like, oh, okay, what does that even mean? Well, so the teacher brought a tarot deck so that we could pull a card. And this is like it's yoga, but yoga's pretty getting into the mainstream. And I would say it's a fairly mainstream yoga studio. It's a flow studio. It's super cool. I go there. So, but it's, you brought tarot to the yoga class, right? And so, why did he do that? Well, why do people even go to yoga, right? Why did he bring in the concept of this full moon eclipse? And so the problem was, it's clarity, confidence, and connection. Those are the problems we're solving. And if you want to take it even deeper, it's for the sake of purpose and really filling your full potential, right? Purpose and potential. But we get to purpose and potential through clarity, confidence, and connection. And so, he brought the tarot, and you draw a card because you're hoping for clarity about something in your life. And you're hoping for the confidence to act on that clarity, really for the sake of connection. Connection to what? Connection to something. Connection to yourself, connection to your purpose and your potential, connection to others. In this case, connection to the full moon, connection to these celestial events and the planets and, life and these bigger existential things. Like, we want to feel connected to something more than just waking up, drinking my coffee, taking my dog to take a piss in the lawn, like clocking in, clocking out, whatever, making dinner, maybe grabbing a whatever beer, drink, cacao in my case. No more cacao in the evening. Anyway, but you know what I mean, right? It's like we want to feel connected to something bigger. And we want, when we hear, oh, it's a full moon, we think, well, what does that mean for me, right? How is that going to affect me? Why? Because I want to feel like my life was full of meaning. And I would say those are the problems that we are solving with this. Also, what I just said in the end that I didn't say before was, you said, is there anything you want to leave people with? And I said, you said, is there anything people really need to know? And, need to know, that's strong language. That's not always language that I use, right? Which we know I'm into language and spells and such. But I said, the one thing would be like how to connect more to their inner knowing. And that is what we're doing here. And not only to connect to it, but have so much clarity around it, right? Because if you guys listen to the rest of this video, we'll talk about how this isn't about me telling you the answers. This is about me guiding you to draw the answers out from within. And so getting clarity around it, and then getting confidence to stand in that inner knowing, to articulate it confidently. And if you keep listening, Jaro's going to give examples of what that was like for him working with me over several months as a private client. And it was really cool to hear your examples. getting confidence to stand in that, which is hard even for someone who's, been a big deal like in your career. It can still be hard in the personal world, right? And so and then having that lead to more connections. And again, Jared was going to give examples of like how that's really led to so much more connection in your life. So definitely I encourage people to listen to the examples, but this is what this whole next hour-long conversation is going to be about, and those are the problems that we're solving.
Cool. So some of the problems, right? A person feels that they aren't accepted, they aren't seen, they can't share themselves basically to their friends or people around them. They may not have their true self able to be expressed. They could feel lost in life. They could have success, but still feel something's missing. They may not be able to utilize the gifts they have, and may not even be aware of their own gifts. They don't have clarity about that. They're not confident in their gifts. The gifts are not seen. And so what happens to this person's life when they are in this mode?
Oh, right. So this is where we talk about compound opportunity.
What's the impact?
Cost.
What's the impact to this person's life?
That's where we talk about compound opportunity cost or compound opportunity gain, right? And so if you are not super clear, or maybe there's some missed opportunity here, right? Like if you're going to work every day and there's just a little bit of lack of connection, or you're going and maybe with your friends or with your wife or whoever it is, there's just something that's amiss, some part of you that's not feeling fully seen or fully utilized in the best way at work or in your relationships, right? Every time that you wake up and are not feeling fully seen and feeling utilizing of your gifts, that's an entire day in a limited lifespan. That's compound opportunity loss, right? And I say compound because it's not just the opportunity of that day, it's everything that had you been on fire, in your element, in your zone. Those days where you're just in it and you walk down the street and like people notice you and someone gives you their number and someone else is like, what do you do? And you make the connection and you network, and it's like ideas spring out of nowhere, or it's the energy around you, right? All of those little opportunities that you had that day because you were on your game, those led to other opportunities that led to other opportunities that were compounding, right? So it's really, this is the impact of your life is, each moment that you're in disconnect mode or connect mode, on your path or off your path, is leading you further in that direction, essentially. So that each step you take forward down the connected path or the disconnected path isn't just one step, but it's like compounding interest. It's one step, and then you step off that step. You're stepping exponentially with each step down the path that you're headed. So that's the impact of like the negative, is that what you're asking?
Mm-hmm.
Whereas the impact of the positive of like getting this clarity, and then not only getting the clarity from the deck, but say you also do the spellcraft from the workbook or even from a reading with me, then you now have a how-to, you have a game plan. You will actually have an assignment that lasts for the next moon cycle of something that you can do to take action that is going to have compound opportunity gains. Because with each time you do this practice that you create from one single reading, you now get more clarity each time. You get more confidence each time, and you are more deeply connected to that clarity, to that confidence, to that purpose and that path that you're on. You walk around, you're more aware, you're seeing opportunities. Literally, the reticular activating system in your brain is being retrained to notice that which you desire. and to overlook the things that you don't desire. We are retraining your brain. That's why I say it's not actually anything supernatural about what we're doing, but it sure does feel like magic.
Well, I think that sounds good. For this person who sounds like they could, a person who feels disconnected, they feel either off their path or even unsure of what their path is. A person who may just feel an unknown purpose. What do you think it's worth for that person to solve that problem, right? In practical terms.
Well, it can look different ways, right? Because we could put it in monetary terms, right? Like, it could be worth an entire business, for example. But we could also put it in terms of like life terms. Like, sometimes people think that they know what their purpose is, but then why do they have this nagging feeling inside like there's something missing, right? So sometimes people can't actually like see. You can take a second, I can keep talking, but sometimes people can't actually see like where, 10 steps down. That's why we first do the reading. We get clarity first, and then we're able to ask the right questions and navigate to see where we need to go next. Because if someone just says, oh, this is what I want, versus if we actually do that through the reading, where we get to is much, much deeper of a desire when we're talking about like where we're getting to in the reading, versus if someone just says, hey, this is what I'm going after.
There's that analogy sometimes makes me think of as Model T Ford, and he's like, if you ask my customers what they want a faster horse.
Yeah.
Right, at the end of the car.
Right. Yeah. People sometimes think they want a faster horse because they didn't know that the car was an option. So at the end of the day, like, it's worth a life, right? That's the value, is what your life is spent with and on.
How are people dealing with this problem today? Right, like a person.
Generic question.
Well, like today, like without you in the mix.
Oh,
right?
well,
Without
for example,
practice.
let's go back to that original question of, people who are interested in spirituality. First of all, there's a phenomenon that I've been recognizing that I call experience hopping, which I want to talk about. But first, I just want to go to that original yoga class that I went to this morning, where they were using tarot cards to try and solve this problem of wanting to feel more connected, right? It's a full moon, eclipse in Taurus. They want to feel more connected. They want to know what these celestial events mean for them personally and how to relate to that, and how could it help them feel more clear, confident, and connected in their lives, right? And so, but the thing is they read the tarot, and this one poor woman, she pulls, forget which card it was, but she pulls this card and she reads the little manual that comes with the traditional, tarot that everyone has. And man, that reading is so freaking fatalistic. It was horrible. It was like, oh my God, it was like she was doomed, and I'm like, let me see that card. Like, let me just give you, like, I felt so bad for her. I'm like, let me just give you an alternative reading really quick. Like, I created a deck that is essentially what all tarot is based on, and like, let me fix this up for you, because her reading was scary and it wasn't helpful, right? So unfortunately, this mysticism and spirituality has crossed into entertainment, where it's almost like we're just scaring each other about it or trying to freak you out. And I see this all the time. It really is, I would say it makes me mad, but it's more sad to me, where like my one really good friend keeps getting these messages from intuitive healers, so-called at least. can't say, I don't know them personally. But what I do know is that the way that they're going about trying to get clients feels really it feels completely inappropriate to me. Where they're cold messaging my friend saying, oh, your ancestors are speaking to me and want basically you to pay me to help you. Or, oh, I intuitively felt drawn to you and was in a meditation, and my meditation, it, informed me that there's bad spirits and entities attached to you, and essentially you can pay me to help remove them. And they may be able to do that, but that way of like hooking and scaring someone, bless you, trying to like hook someone or scare tactic them is completely unacceptable in my opinion. It's totally inappropriate, and it's like taking this stuff and making it feel woo so that it feels scary and only I can help you, where really these are really practical things that we're doing. They're really human things, and it's just optimizing how we use our minds to create the experience that we want, how we use our language to create the experience we want, how we use our breath to create the experience we want.
So it sounds like we've talked about, how you're different from some of these competitors, right? So what you told me, some of the competitors out there, it'd be good to hear how other people are solving this, but it sounds like what you've observed is that some of these competitors, they have this kind of inappropriate messaging. They're seeking to scare, pull people in.
Or even the regular tarot can be so fatalistic, whereas mine is really solution oriented. It's very solution oriented, and there was something else I was going to say too. Oh, also, some people use tarot as a divination tool. I do not.
What does that mean?
Divination means I'm going to tell you your future. I personally, as well as the way that I've created this deck, wow, it's so loud. I personally, as well as the way that I've created this deck, is really interested in the present. So even like I do ancestral healing work, right? And even in that, I'm still most interested in how you as my client are showing up in the present. If it's affecting you in the present, that's interesting. That's interesting to me. I'm not going to say, oh, because you were born on this day, you're destined to this, because you also, as a human being, have free will and have choice and can change and can change. And so similarly, I don't use the cards to say, oh, here's your future. What I do is I say, the cards, this is what's present right now. And then from there, I do what's called maieutic teaching, is where you draw the answer out from the student. So from the support of the cards really act as a prompt, although there is, I'm telling you, some magic appears as if it were supernatural, right? I mean, there's some magic there. But the cards as a prompt, and then specific questions that draw out the answers from within the student or the client. And this is where, again, it's not the same as if I just said, what do you want? There's a certain process of maieutically drawing the answers from within. So again, that's very different than a divination where somehow I'm all powerful and can see into your future and tell you. I'm not here to give you answers. I'm not here to tell you what you should do with your life. What I am here to do is help you to get absolute clarity about those answers and about what to do to your life, because I helped you to draw them out from within.
That's good. So it sounds like the differentiator is that yours is practical, it's human, you're able to optimize mind, language, and breath. Yours is solution-oriented and focuses on the present. By using maieutic teaching, you can draw these lessons from inside the person, and that you bring a specific process. Does that sound about right?
Mm-hmm.
Miss something?
I like your next question. I'm gonna make you answer it.
Why would someone pay for all this?
Why did you pay for all this?
Why would someone pay for this?
No.
Why did I pay for this?
Why did you pay for this?
Pay for this. It's an investment in yourself.
No, I want you if you don't mind.
Yeah, I made an investment in myself.
Yeah.
Curious about process. Even in some ways, experience hopping. Try something new.
Oh, I didn't talk about that.
Yeah. Try something new to see how it fits. I had a therapist.
I would argue that experience hopping is more like I'm just going to get a one-off session, whereas you actually invested a significant amount into working with me for months. Right. So I see what you're saying. Part of it was what led me to there, but that is I would argue that goes a little deeper than just like experience.
Yeah, let's say like start with an unmet need, right? So something like a person has therapists. I have therapists. Why do you have that person?
This I remember us talking about how it's kind of like
therapist is like
going so deep.
Yeah, my experience is you got a person who's an expert. You're paying for them just to hear you, right? So you're getting to express yourself. People ask lots of probing questions, and you get to say them out loud. Often you do maybe unwind your own problem or solve it, but drawback. Not every therapist comes with a game plan. Like where are we at? Where do we want to go? Do we even know who we want to be? And what's the process to get there? That doesn't seem clear, right? And so when you and I spoke, it was like we can set up a roadmap of identifying who you are. In your case here, I think it's clarity. Mm-hmm. Who are you? What do you want to do? What's going on? What's blocking you? And then I like the next bit, confidence, right? So maybe leaning into your gifts or defining what your gifts are and getting cruft out of the way, stuff that slows you down and gets you not feeling present, not being focused. That was something I was looking for is how do I feel at balance? How do I feel confident in the day that you're doing the right things that are really leading you to the next level? So those are some of the reasons that I did that. And why would I pay for that? I agree with what you said before. This isn't just in the moment making yourself feel good for today, this month, this year. Potentially, if you have the compound opportunities, right? This means that your life can be dramatically changed.
And I mean, I would argue, like, witnessing you in the last few months, like, I feel like your life has changed a lot. And if you think of the compound opportunity gains from, like, a part of, if I remember correctly, what also you were looking for was also that piece of connection and more connection with the right people. And what I've witnessed with you is, like, some people have been invited out of your life, certain no longer friends, right? And think of all the time and energy that, and part of this is because, I mean, we really worked through that, and we really, worked together to, like, get that clarity and then get the confidence to set those boundaries compassionately, right? Like, that was a whole process. And imagine if that person was still just leeching on your life, the compound opportunity loss. Yeah. Whereas now that precious time is filled with other activities and other people, like some of these new people that you hosted parties, and some of these people started coming and introducing you to a whole new group of people, that now there's compound opportunity gain. Like your one friend, we're recording so I won't like name names, but like your one friend who now is like on the lookout for a home for you. Like, just think of all that compound opportunity gain, and you're spending time with her instead of that other old friend. Right. You're leaning into a place you can be more present, be seen, understood, that kind of thing. Be with your people, find your people. It's really important. Yeah. And how do you feel inside when you're with those people? It feels great. I mean, there's a whole difference when you're not around the right people. We can all be nice. The static electricity mode where you're smiling and going along with it, but you're not your full self. And then your energy. It's being somebody else, or whatever you want to call it, in a group. It's taxing. It's just like exhausted.
But, if you're around your people, presumably you get nervous from that. You have a lot of fun.
Do you want to be in the video? You're not.
I'm good.
You're good. Okay. It's fun.
I was in there earlier.
You were.
I walked over there.
I don't think you were in it. Say hi.
Hello.
Okay. If we put this anywhere, people will just see me listening. That's fine.
It's like an interview.
It's an interview with an anonymous person.
So
You're
that's
real, there's light.
right. So I'm thinking I had other experiences where I made investments in myself that paid off. So there was an analogy of whether it's a training. I took a training to take on a new skill. It helped my job. Things like therapy, right? Even things like investing in yourself medically, right? Calling the doctor and making a dentist appointment and getting the root canal, whatever you need to do.
Yeah.
Those are things that change the rest of your life. And that's a small amount or maybe a big one. But, we think a lot about that stuff, but who focuses on really, I'm not talking about, therapy, I'm stressed out, but no, like, how do we take yourself?
Getting in there and reconnecting the wires.
Like the human body and brain is this magnificent machine. You can do anything. If you can imagine it, it's just about possible you could do it. But we wake up every day and have the barnacles, and you want to do all this stuff and 10 things stop you. And every day you're kind of fighting barnacles when what happens if the barnacles weren't there, or what happens if instead of barnacles you had a team, right? All your friends and family and peers and work people were like leaning in with the energy to make you succeed, right? That's a different story, right? If you're, I don't know, Michael Jordan and everything, and everyone in the team's like, let's get that guy the ball.
Right.
That's pretty sweet.
Well, and that's part of what we talked about too, and that's part of what the spellcrafting part of this Merkaba technology is clearing out the barnacles, because we say, there's this recurring distraction or this recurring sabotage cycle. What's the root cause of it? And it's not always what we thought, and that's why we kind of use this process of the cards. The cards tap us into the subconscious, right? Rather than just being super analytical. Sometimes when you go to therapy, you're thinking about it, you're in your thinking mind. But some of this stuff, and that's why the cards are so useful, because we're connecting to the divine, we're connecting to this space of not analytical mind, but of more this subconscious inner world. And we're letting that come out a little bit, because that's where those traumas and fears and barnacles lie, is in the subconscious, right? So we tapped into there, and the cards, because it has that like feeling of, it feels a little magic, right? It taps us in to that part of ourselves. It's really useful. But anyway, thanks for sharing some of that about your experience. I got to witness it, so I know, but it's cool to hear you say it out loud.
Yeah, it's even saying it out loud sometimes is surprising, because
you're like, oh yeah.
we have this ego exceptionalism. In my mind, I'm the most important person or whatever, right? So
to you,
but you and I are just one random person, one little speck of dust. And so I think a lot of what's great about doing some of the practices, spellcrafting, is that you can tell your story, so you're able to be heard, but you can step away from it and observe it, right? You slow it down. Yeah. You treat yourself like a third person who's maybe in a tough situation or seeking advice, and you're not all muddled up with your own thoughts. You're just saying, I'm observing there's an issue. This person would love to do this.
That's cool.
And this stuff is blocking you. And like, we talked about it, but sometimes you tell a story that seems, I don't want to say first nature, but you might have a trauma. And it's just like, that's just how my life is,
Yeah.
But then you see it that most people with traumas, I don't know, do they know it's a trauma?
Right. I think you're right. I think we just, it's what it is. Yeah. I think you're just a great example too, because you're someone who's like, you're like what I was talking about in the beginning, like someone who you do have a lot of clarity about a lot of things. You do have a lot of confidence about a lot of things. Like, you've had a lot of amazing success in your field, and you're an expert in your field. Like, it's not like the typical person where you say, spiritual person, maybe they're a little lost. It's like, no, you're not a little lost. Like, you're doing great. And there was still that yearning for like something deeper and more connection and more purpose and, more of these things. And so anyway, I appreciate you sharing, because I think you're a really great example of how these technologies can be really useful for just even the more rationally minded people who are really on top of their game, there's a lot of value to be added from this.
Yeah. So it sounds like we've talked about, the type of person that has these problems. We talked about the problems. We've talked about how they're solving this problem today, or really not solving it. And here you are with a different approach, right? And we've already found that there's value in it. Someone's going to pay for it. And so the next question is, how do you execute?
Oh, yeah. Well, what do you mean?
Well, this is a quick meta, but right, you're talking to someone who's like the potential investor, right? Like, I'm going to invest time and energy into your company. It could be as a role or whatever, but like, I see a person who's smart and can solve problems. Right. How do you execute this?
So there's a few different layers, right? Because it depends if I'm talking, because this conversation, I'm thinking like this video could be really useful for people to watch who are potentially interested in a few different things, right? So on the one hand, there's from the client perspective, so I'll outline that. And then, of course, part of this conversation, too, was, looking for someone who wants to be in the role of CMO, COO, executive role, right? And there's, like, execution from more of that technical perspective that I could outline. So maybe I'll start with more of, like, the user experience, because even for someone who's listening who might want to partner with me, that's still going to be helpful for them. So from the user experience, like right now, what's readily available, well, it's not really readily available because I don't often take clients because it's quite limited, right? But what is available in limited quantity is to work with me directly at a VIP level, which is what you experienced, right? And you were working with me like as this deck had just been channeled through, right? It's like you're among those first 100 people to get a reading, right? I did a lot of readings this summer,
Yeah.
But a reading, the people who just got a reading, like that's different than what I did with you, right? So on the one hand, the user experience, something that I just opened up is a reading, it's super powerful, but it's just a one-time thing. You're not a private client, but you get a one-time reading. I have very limited spaces available for that, and it's really something that I just started doing kind of like as a trial, as a service, to have this be more accessible. There's not that many spaces though, so I have limited time, but it's something that I just started that I'm excited about, because being a private client like you are, it's very exclusive, and it's financially exclusive, right? So doing these little readings can be a really powerful way to increase that accessibility. So right now, those are available in limited quantity, and then occasionally open up a spot for VIP client, which is what you did, and that's also part of the user experience. That's more of like a multi-month experience where either way there's transformation. However, of course, when you get that integration over a period of months, you've really become a student of this work, where it's like, now I feel like I could just send someone to you and you could almost teach them some of this. Like when we talk, I feel like a proud mom. But so there's that like private way of working with me, but we're talking about the deck here. The deck is not available yet, but it will soon be available. So there's also just someone's like, for whatever reason, maybe my, readings are booked out for months and they want to do something now and they don't quite have the investment to be a private client, or it's just that's deeper than what they want and they just want something now. They can buy a deck, and they buy the deck and the workbook together. They can read that and they can study that. Right, so this is the vision of where Merkaba Technologies is going. Right now it's me, it's my readings, it's my private clients. And that's very limited, right, because I'm just me and I'm doing other stuff. Well, soon there'll also be the Merkaba Tarot deck. And it comes with a manual that really is an intro to Merkaba technologies and Kabbalistic mysticism, and of course how to use the deck, and then a spellcrafting workbook that takes you through that next step yourself so that you can craft and break these spells on your own, these spells, right? You literally get to spell it out in the workbook and go through this 4-step process in the workbook. Then, next, what will be available will be information products. So you have the deck, you read the manual, but some people like to consume through video. And while, of course, there's a social media where you can follow everything I say and do and you'll learn a lot, but an actual information product that is an intro to Merkaba technologies, to Kabbalah cosmology, to, the Merkaba as a, technology for both ascension and embodiment. It has the chakras and the sphirot, and it's an entire healing modality that explains how to be in balance and how to be aligned with purpose. So we can have an information product. The next step would be more of a course. So there's just a information product that you can consume that's like a course. And the next one would be like a program where you could actually be, certified as someone who's certified in reading this type of tarot and in facilitating spellcrafting sessions, right? So it'd be more like a certification program. Now, from a business perspective, there's a lot of opportunity there. And then from a consumer perspective, the reason I want to expand into that is, again, for accessibility, right? Like that is a group program where people can actually learn to facilitate this themselves. In learning to facilitate it, they're getting some one-on-one time with me, some group time with me, some time with each other, and then eventually I'll outsource myself. So I'll have trained these people who will be certified, and eventually it won't be me, but it'll be someone who's highly trained. And this can expand in that way, and there can be a really beautiful community. And what we're doing is we are not only revealing, like reviving, giving, vida again, right, to this ancient technology, ancient healing modality that has been around forever, but has been, sometimes just English. Oh, it's 11:11. Sometimes English isn't the right language. Like, absconded? Is that like the word that wants to come is like escondido? But it's like absconded. It's been hidden. It's been escondido, like beneath dogma, beneath religion, beneath rules. Like you have to be a 40-year-old man and you have to be of this certain group of people, right? And these things that no longer serve us as humanity. So we're reviving that. And I feel uniquely qualified to do that because, this is tied to my body's lineage. I also have had unique opportunities to study the original texts in the original languages, in the Aramaic and in the Hebrew, which is really different than reading translations, right? And then I've studied other healing modalities that are connected, like energy healing modalities that are based on this. Vedic wisdom, and other traditional medicine modalities like traditional Western herbalism and traditional Arabic medicine, etc. That when you look at all the pieces and you take out the dogma and you apply it universally to humans, you now have an entire healing modality. So I think that this is really like a revolutionary thing. These are healing energies, healing vibrations, healing wisdom, healing technologies that we are reviving. I got lost in that because I got excited.
Good.
Oh, and then, so that was the execution. Yeah, and then people can be certified to do it themselves. They can have a deck, they can carry it around with them, they can help themselves in any moment, they can help others in any moment, they can make a career out of it if they want to. My past business was, I help people do that. So there's a lot here. And then, I also want to have other things like a little pendant, for example. So there'll be some like merch as well. So there's the private sessions, there's the deck, there's the information product, like the just downloadable course. There's the program that's really scalable. That's the certification program. It's really special. That's scalable. And then, of course, there's other merchandise, but merchandise that's meaningful and special, like the amulet, which we talked about earlier, where you get to wear it and it's a reminder and it's something that makes this more than just a gimmick, where it becomes a wisdom path, it becomes a spiritual practice, and it becomes something that guides you and that connects you to something much greater than yourself. There you
go. Cool. Why now? Why would a person do this today versus tomorrow versus next week, next month?
Okay, I have a question
why
for
would
you.
Someone, what you got?
What's going to happen tomorrow?
I don't know. Maybe I should know.
Well, you can't really know what's going to happen next week.
Don't know.
Where are you going to be in a year? Where's the world going to be in a week? I mean, if the last 2 years taught us anything, what happened in 2020? Like, what?
Yeah, so a person who's got these problems, and they know there's a solution out there, they know there's solutions that don't work, they see value in this. They've seen that compared to competitors, you have some differentiators, willing to pay for them. You have this expertise. You're able to execute on it. And, why do this now? What's the motivator for...
Okay, but when you're saying this, because we're talking about like...
It could be,
a bunch of different things. Are you talking about why someone should partner with me on the executive level? Or are we talking about why someone should, pay to be a private client like at the level that you were? Or why someone should buy the deck or the pendant? Because there's a lot of different things we could be talking about.
I think the first question I would have is for a potential customer, what is the value of this to them?
Well, we've already talked about that.
And then why, what's the trigger that makes them do this today, right? People sit on problems.
I mean, besides the fact that it's limited, right? Sometimes, very clearly, right now in November, through the rest of this year, I'm doing these readings. I could take one more private client, kind of like what you did, right now. And as soon as another client signs up, then that's full. And maybe they sign up for 3 months, which is like the shorter range, which is what you did, I think. But maybe they sign up for a year, and then that's what's taken for a year, because right now there's someone that's in for a year.
So a person may not be able to get your time.
Yeah. And a year from now, talk about compound opportunity loss. If this is resonating, that availability is limited, first of all, right? So that's just literal limited availability.
Yeah.
But also of your own experiences, like I said, where are you going to be tomorrow? Are you going to be tomorrow? Hopefully.
Right. I'm thinking people can stew on problems for a while, and even if they know there's an answer on the corner, what makes them tomorrow be like, boom, I'm gonna take an action.
What made you? Because remember we talked and we were just scheduling a call to catch up. And you're like, so I want to talk to you about being a client. And I was like, I had no idea you were even going to say that. And you're like,
let's do it.
Great. What made you, there was no asking you or persuading or anything. You called me and said, I'm ready. And I was like, oh, I didn't know we were doing this.
Yeah, I think there's just, there's no better time than the present, right? The tree analogy, it's best to... Would have been great to do this 20 years ago, but you didn't. So here you are today.
Compound opportunity.
Yeah. you're looking for all these different things, what could work, what might not work. If a person claims something's going to work, you could, believe it or not, give it a try. Have confidence in what the person's saying. Talk to them, get a feeling. Yeah, I mean, why did I do it? At that time, I was feeling a lot of things we were talking about, right? Unexpressed, maybe the gifts not seen, not confident in some situations and areas, unsure of a path, lots of doubt in that path. We talked about it, barnacles, people in your life that kind of giving you weird energy and like, how much should I roll with this? Can I say no? And what does that mean? So to me, that was a lot of it, which is all this stuff's happening and like, I want to solve it. I want to solve it all right now.
Yeah.
And then you're like...
Because you're an ambitious person. You have ambitious goals and you understand that your energy and time is precious. And if you have these things weighing and sucking and slowly draining your energy, you understood the compound opportunity loss of that.
Yeah.
And we're ready to address it.
I had to make a decision, right? Just like anything where you want to solve a problem. It's one thing to educate yourself on, give clarity on what the problem is, right? That's important because we don't often do that. Then you're like, well, what is the solution? Cool, here's a list of solutions, like the buy it now button. Well, at some point, you got to make a decision. You're going to solve it now. And if you don't convert your thoughts into action, they just stay thoughts.
I think one thing, if we're talking about this, like what you did, there's a lot of, like you said, there's a lot of options and choices out there. One thing that is special about working directly with a mentor, right, is like now we have a really special relationship because we've worked so closely together, right? And that journey of going through that was based in ancient technologies, but it was tailored specifically for you, right?
Yeah.
Like it was no like yes, it's rooted in ancient technologies, so there is this foundation of wisdom, but it wasn't like this cookie cutter, I'm just gonna like read this book and it'll apply to everyone. It's like, well, no, the thing about ancient technologies is there's patterns and formulas. And then it's like, I'm a clinical herbalist too, right? And we learn how to make formulas. So if someone has, a skin issue, I'm using metaphors here. Well, this is true, actually, but it's a metaphor, right? If someone has like eczema, and then we're going to say, okay, we're going to look at liver stagnation, and we're going to look at the, blood, how clean is the blood, etc. We're going to look at the lungs. We're going to look at the filtration systems in the body, etc. Right? Well, say I want to formulate, say I look at all that and I say, okay, we're going to create a liver cleansing formula for you. Your liver cleansing formula, your liver tonic or whatever might be really different than someone else who also has skin issues, who also wants liver support, but their constitution might be really different, right? So we're in this like information age where there's so much like one and done, like here's the cookie cutter formula. There's no cookie cutter formula. There's foundational underlying patterns that are true. And then based on those patterns, you look at the individual thing and you say, well, this has this constitution, so we're going to apply this, and you get a unique formula. So that's like what's really special at this level. Obviously like the deck and the workbook are, I've never seen anything quite like those, where it's just really, it's been hidden for millennium, truly. And that's laying it out as closely as possible for people who want to just study it on their own for a while. But yeah, I think, why now? It's like, all there really is now, right? I like this. I say, well, the past has already happened and the future may never come. So,
what you got?
Here we are.
Yeah. Yeah.
And even just a few months later, like you imagine how different your life would be now that we've like talked about it and remembered, because it's so easy to forget. If like we hadn't done any of that work and those insecurities were still present and those people were still in your life and those people weren't in your life, that's a different place where you are.
Yeah, something you mentioned, the present, made me think of a feeling anyway. Sometimes when you're stressed out, you're doing too much, overwhelmed, no balance, whatever, you're not feeling on your purpose, your path, the present can feel like this kind of a stressful cage or something, right? There's not a lot of space to move around on it. You're kind of like, you don't have control over the present. You're just you're in there operating, you're dealing with stuff, you're reactive, and it's a little space. It kind of feels like you're just, in my mind, you're in like a little submarine dealing with lots of waves out there.
That feels yucky.
Right? You're just like,
gross.
Yeah, you're not on the yacht, just chilling with a glass of wine.
No.
Right?
Ew.
And I think sometimes as if you can remove the barnacles, you can slow things down, get closer to your path. The present, just to use the analogy of the submarine, that bubble expands. You can walk around in the present. You can explore it. You can sniff the flowers in the present. You can have these opportunities to chit chat with somebody. You're not rushed from place to place. You're present with the people around you. You're able to be just kind of chill, and maybe you are a little more confident in who you are. You don't need to impress anybody, right? You're trying to conform. And I think part of this gives more strength to the power of the present, right? Think more clearly, more slowly in a way, and more deliberately. And I like the idea. The present is literally all we have. Right? I can't go up to the past yet. Time travel. Future, the same deal. But it's like if the present is a tool in my tool belt, how am I using it? Do I know what if there's a nail in the wall, what am I hammering with the present to build something with? And if you're not clear, you're just doing whatever. You're just rolling around.
So, call to action, I guess, right, is like right now, or whenever this video is available, right? As of right now, the way that someone gets to work with me, like how you did, is by contacting me, and then I get to send them, an application, see if it even seems like someone to even talk to. We talk, and we either work together or we don't, right? And that's like, you get the full meal deal that way, right? And then as of right now, and this could totally change, but I used to volunteer every single week in Portland, Oregon at the Pranic Healing Clinic, and it was a healing clinic, and I went and I offered healing, energy healing that I did and do. Sometimes is integrated into this, but it's definitely part of the Merkaba technology, but it's more robust now. But I would go every week to this clinic and I would volunteer, and that felt so good. And I may even start volunteering at a pranic healing clinic here in Austin if it opens up again. But just to have that, like, volunteering a service or like a donation-based service, something like that, feels really important to me. So for right now, I've opened up, it's already booked out by like a month, so who knows? It's not too much availability. It was 1 day a week that I was opening up. Just a donation-based reading, which is not to the level of what you experience, but can still be really powerful for someone where that's just more accessible for them. And that feels really good for me as well. So, those are some options. And then the third option would be to get on a wait list for the deck. That wait list is currently in my notes, but will soon be an actual, maybe by the time this is out, it'll be an actual wait list on the website. But people can message me, right? Like, this is me. This is an authentic thing. It's about relationships. People ask me all the time, when can I get your book? And I'm like, it's like literally every week I have people asking me. And so that was the other thing is, the other call to action is for those of you out there who are, chief marketing officer, operations type executive way of thinking. I ran my business in the past and I did all of that. And so I have the experience, I have the vernacular for it, but I'm only one person. And that was the main takeaway from the previous rendition of my business, is that I'm only one person, and having 6 executive roles at once is a really unhealthy way to run a business. And so for the people who might have listened, who either are that person or might know that person, who I was talking to my friend the other night, and he's like, yeah, I know a lot of people who have been really successful in business or in marketing, but who now want something more meaningful and more soulful, and really like leaving that legacy and making that impact for their life. I mean, imagine you're immersed in this stuff day after day, like for their life, but also on the world and their families and their friend circles, and then the whole world at large, thousands and thousands and hundreds and thousands and whoever this is going to reach, right, of people, to have that impact. So that's for the person that I'm calling to, who wants to partner with me in that way, so that I can really stay in my lane in offering this wisdom that it's not my wisdom, but it's just something that I've been able to access and articulate, right? It's my dharma. So someone who wants to partner with me to help make it more accessible in all these ways that I just outlined, beyond what my limited time and energy is able to do on its own.
So a role like that, a chief marketing officer, executive, talk us through what a day in the life of working with Shifra is like. What does that look like?
Well, you get to talk to me every day. Just kidding. I mean, it depends what project we're going on, right? So I'm not sure like how specific you want me to get into, like what softwares we use or what projects we're running.
How can you envision working together, basically?
I mean, it'd be really great if someone was local to Texas, because that's where I am. However, it's not 100% necessary. I ran a whole business over Zoom with my previous business partner, and that's also very effective. So it doesn't have to be. It's like we have projects. So I have a lot of vision. I do have experience also running business, but what I need, for example, the next projects is to launch this deck. I want to launch it through Kickstarter. Kickstarter is a great platform. I have an entire document that outlines the SOPs for how to launch a successful deck on Kickstarter, right? Well, I can share that with someone, but meanwhile, what that looks like, I mean, I like to be in communication with the people I'm working with regularly. I like to have, accountability there, so that, we keep each other accountable, keep each other motivated. Obviously, this workplace is a very, positive workplace, solution-oriented workplace, heartfelt workplace. And, there's obviously also still boundaries and protocols, right? Like anything. But yeah, so then the next project is launching this Kickstarter. So ideally this person would be someone who knows how to do this themselves, or has people that they could delegate to, that they're comfortable with, but someone who could manage that. But the next tasks that need to happen is, first of all, lead generation. That would lead to just a really authentic and heartfelt email campaign to just keep people interested. People are interested in this stuff. People every day are asking me about this. So just a nice email campaign that I'm happy to write content for. I don't want to write all the content because I need to be working on completing the manual. So I actually don't want to be writing that content but I can definitely give ideas towards it. It's managing the marketing, right? So it's lead gen to email campaign, and then that will lead to the Kickstarter launch. It's kind of being on top of the Kickstarter launch of what needs to happen. As CMO, that's your job, right? It's social media management. I'd like to set up something like we mentioned before, like Hootsuite or one of those later.com or something like that. It's really not that hard, but just someone who understands about the hashing and about the tagging and about all these things so that we can optimize that. Obviously, I'll create some of the content because I'm the face of it and I understand all the stuff, but someone who can schedule it out for me and just tell me like, hey, this is what needs to get done. I do better talking and then having it just like made, so that again, purpose is so that I can focus on actually completing the manual and writing this project, right? That's where I need to be focused. Other tasks for the CMO. Yeah, I mean, that's most of CMO. Also, like, it would be really cool to have an influencer campaign with that. Like, you know, we print out some decks and give some away. I would love to give away 100 decks to cool people who I either already have a relationship with or who I would value having a relationship with, and give them this gift in exchange for, you know, that kind of influencer campaign. Managing something like that would fall under the CMO category. COO category, which is a different role, but there's a little bit of crossover here. Like there's a third task with this particular project, which is producing the deck itself. I'm already in conversation with a manufacturer. That could be something that I could do, that could be something that we do together, or it could be something that this person takes over. And you know, we would discuss things like that though. So it's not a hire, it's someone that I really do want to have be invested in this project, excited about this project, coming in at the executive level, coming in with ownership. And that looks like, you know, more ownership in your own investment in it, and then more ownership in, you know, reaping the rewards, the spiritual and physical rewards from it as well. Yeah, does that answer your question?
It does. Thank you.
Cool. Well, we've been going at it.
What else do the people need to know?
I think the people mostly need to know how to trust their own inner guidance, and I think that is what this helps with more than anything.
Schaefer, thank you.
Thanks, Jero.